for creators, which is why I think it's essential that you learn how to cry on command. It's like, oh crap, I need to be authentic. I'll cry today. Someone give me some onions. We've all seen the Friends episode where he's plucking hairs out, in order to get himself to cry. That is not authenticity. It's a joke, right? But so many times we think of authenticity as something that we do rather than someone that we are. And I want to help all of you to be authentic, as is. I see that truth bomb and I love it. Air 5. Whoop. I love it. Being authentic is who you are. But just as you would post pictures of your family online, you certainly wouldn't post pictures of the back of your license plate online, right? You certainly wouldn't post a picture with your address online. And so as you learn to become more authentic, more authentically, you want to be creating clear boundaries. And I want to share with you some of those boundaries today. But first, I want to tell my own personal story of how I sort of had to break through the business barrier, where I went from, trying to deliver this sort of pristine message where I would be as good as I wasn't. It didn't have to be perfect, but it had to be pretty close to perfect. And, you always wanted to portray this image that I was better than this person or more successful than that person. And all of these sort of ambitions inside of me, one day in 2015, exploded into stage 3 cancer. Now, of course, my stress-filled ambition or die lifestyle wasn't the only thing that led to this explosion of a cantaloupe-sized tumor in my chest. I had a poor diet. I was doing some things improperly. But all of that exploded into cancer. My wife came home to find me on the floor, writhing in pain, crying. And I just said, I don't know what's wrong with me. So we went to the hospital multiple times. They kept telling me that I was crazy. You guys ever experienced that? You ever been to the hospital? They tell you that you're crazy. It's in your head. It's in your head, man. I remember the guy coming in, the young doctor comes in the room. He's like, hey, man, your tests are clear. Your tests are clear, bro. It's like that teacher, trying to be cool like you. This is that doctor was trying to do. And I'm like, how can you tell me that? I collapsed on the floor and I'm in so much pain, and you're telling me that my tests are clear? Go back and test again, run another test, run 5 tests. After 3 visits to the emergency room, they finally ran a CT scan where they found this tumor. And I was immediately admitted for a biopsy and for this massive surgery. And I thought my life had come to a close. I remember sitting in that hospital room with my wife. Actually, my wife at this time had run home to grab the kids. She was like, go get grandma and grandpa situated with the kids. My wife's going to come back home. And in that 30 minutes where I was alone in that hospital room, I had this really ride or die moment. How many of you guys have ever had a ride or die moment in your life where it's like, I'm either going to do this or I'm going to quit, right? How many of you guys have had a moment like that? I see some hands going up. I like to see that, These are the moments where champions are made. Nobody ever became number 1, number 2, or number 3 because they decided to take it easy. Champions move forward, but we move forward strategically. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I was a wreck, alone in this hospital room. And I had this very comforting spirit about me. And I thought, I shouldn't be this calm right now, right? And sort of these 2 choices. You know how you can have one thought? You have this one thought in 1 second, but unpacking that could take a whole book. It's like explaining a dream. I had this one thought, and it's like, if you quit now, nobody would blame you. Everybody would say, Owen, you did the right thing. Go take care of your cancer. It's a big deal. Cancer is a big deal. You could do that. Nobody would blame you. Or you could beat this thing loudly and publicly and raise up other champions as you go along. And that's what I decided to do. And I woke up and I decided I would no longer try to display a pristine image. I was going to pull back the curtain like the Wizard of Oz. And for the first time in my life ever, be okay with not being everything. So I pulled out my phone the next day. Now, by this point, I was already an influencer. I'd already well known for live streaming. I was on Meerkat. I was doing a lot of stuff. I'd already had 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. And so, it's important to say that I had already sort of crossed over that credibility hump, but I had never before done a personal live stream. And I live streamed that morning on Facebook where I told everybody what happened and I told everybody what I was going to do with my life. And it was the best live stream that I had ever done. It got more views than I have ever got until the day I announced that I had beat my cancer. And as soon as I beat my cancer a year later, I did another live stream. And that became my most popular live stream. Not only that, my wife and I have set up an organization called beatcancerwithme.com, where we teach people how to beat cancer the way we beat cancer. So you see, authenticity and transparency turned into my life's calling. Now, I've learned some things along the way. Because here, I'll tell you something, not everybody wants to hear the message, and that's going to be true whether you're in a service-based business, whether you're in an entertainment business, or whether you're a major brand. I have served all three of these different types of clients, and everybody's going to have sort of a different journey to their full, transparent, and authentic selves. Now, for the record, I want you guys to know that my cancer came back a year ago. And I am right now battling it again. And I want you to know that I'm beating it again. Okay. And I bring that out there because if you do follow me, you are going to see posts that are about, I thought Owen had cancer a couple years ago. I did have it once. It came back and we're fighting it again. But this time we're doing it a little bit differently. And that's not a conversation for today. I want to talk about some of the guidelines. I want to talk about some of the guidelines for authenticity and for, expressing who you are online in a way that will grow your credibility and cause others to say, hey, I want a little bit of that. I'm going to change my camera so we can make things a little bit more fun. How many of you guys have two cameras set up? I love it. I love it. I'm looking at some of your sets today. Santa Claus, I see you. I love it. One of my closest friends, believe it or not, is a mall Santa. He has been for decades. We used to go to church together, and our kids are, his son and I are great friends. It's this wonderful thing. So I love what you're doing, and I love seeing how technologically advanced you guys all are. So let's talk about the safety line. Okay, let's talk about the boundary. Right? Because I want you all to be able to talk about your personal the personal aspects of your life. And I want you to do so strategically. I want you to think about, okay, what's the story you want to tell? Is it about divorce, disease, a disability? I would love for you to type it into the chat area right now. What is that thing you want to be authentic about? Maybe you're not comfortable sharing that in a group. That's okay. But if you are, I'd like for you to step into that right now publicly and share with us in the thread. Can I make that bigger? I think I can make that bigger, right? Maybe I can pin it. Yeah, cool. Authentic leadership, dysfunction, being a good dad. Who said that? Most important thing in the world to me is being a good dad. In fact, I set goals with like 30 minutes with my kid per day or per week, whatever I do. My wife's suicidal ideation, bro, I'll tell you, they tell you stage 4 terminal cancer. I thought about suicide. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I did. An immigrant woman adjusting to U.S. culture. Yes. Man, Mental health, please talk about mental health more, please. I start therapy in a week. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to actually like talk to a professional about how I could organize some of the trauma that going through cancer has caused. I love all of these guys. Let's get real here. I want you all to be thinking about, okay, how trauma creates comedy, man? Oh, okay. So what do you, now here's the second step. So now we've sort of talked about what's that thing. What are the images and the stories that you need to tell to get that message across? Okay, now you don't need to write this down, but I want you to think about bullet points. Okay, so look, helping couples with true intimacy. I love it. What are the things that people need to see and or hear in order to resonate with that message? Those are the opportunities I want you guys to look for. Because when we talk about being authentic, we're not talking about being authentic with everything. I'll prove it to you. I don't, and you don't take your mobile phone into the restroom, do you? Right? In fact, because we're also, I mean, we all kind of do, right? Like we're all checking the news, but you for heck yeah, make sure that that camera's off, right? Being authentic doesn't mean sharing everything. And you need to position your big thing dealing with anxiety around a winning story. Okay? So, you know, Mike Quinn is saying Owen is 100% correct with all of this. Thank you so much. So we talked about anxiety, right? What is the message in overcoming anxiety? Anxiety is the Darth Vader, and you get to conquer Darth Vader over and over and over again, just like the first 4, 5, 6 Star Wars, right? You get to keep beating him. You get to keep beating that enemy, but you have to find new ways to win. And so I want you to think about what are the stories that you are going to tell to reinforce the authenticity you're trying to get across. Okay. Now, the other part of that is what are the stories you're not going to tell? Okay. And not going to tell often means not right now. And that's okay. In fact, I have 3 principles for creating your boundaries. But we can't create boundaries unless we first know the playground. And so the playground is understanding the authentic stories that you're trying to share, and then the imagery and the experience that will reinforce that message. And then you need to have things that you're not gonna share about right now. Right? For me, in the beginning, man, challenges of being a Christian in today's world. Praise the Lord, Valentine. I get it. I totally get that. In the beginning, the stories I would not tell were the stories of death and losing my family, which today invokes strong emotions. And I'm a little raw because we just, had these conversations this morning, like I do a cancer routine every morning and whatnot. And I was just thinking about how much I love my daughter, and how much she needs a dad. So you can see, I can't even talk to you guys about it without getting a little misty, which is why I've chosen not to talk about those things right now. I need to be more distant from them. Now, let's talk about your safety line. Let's talk about your boundary line. So we just talked about the circle that you're going to play within, okay? Now, let's talk about that line which, you need to stay safe, and you need to be able to retreat with enough space from your audience to continue to be effective for them. So much of what we do is not just so much for your business, right? Or for your show. It's so the audience gets it. Like it would be easy for me to serve, because I make a lot of dinners at my house. It would be easy for me to serve a whole bunch of roots and spinach leaves to I just dump all those on the kitchen table. I say, eat it. Some of us, that's how we're authentic with our audience. You just come out cussing at them. I see this all the time, is where people come out and they just cuss a lot and they say, I'm being authentic. And it's like, you're just throwing food on the table. Whereas I want to encourage you to plate it so that it's consumable. Giving them one piece at a time and giving yourself enough space so that when they're moved by it, they're not knocking on your door. Okay? And what are those things, right? And to bring the analogy home, you know, what I do with my kids to get them to eat healthy food, they do eat roots and spinach leaves, but I cook it, I saute it, I prepare it and package it for them, right? And that's what I want you guys to be doing with your story. Now, there's three aspects to your boundary line that I want you to consider. Number one is the narrative. Okay. You have to always keep in mind the narrative, which is, who are you in the minds of your viewers? Are you Glenn Santa Claus or a man who plays Santa Claus? And this, I don't need the answer. I'm sure you've thought of these things, but as an example, right? Because like you can't break that fourth wall while you're live streaming. And similarly, if you were saying, no, when I'm in the eyes of the public, I am Santa Claus, then your look offline or off live streaming should be Clark Kenty, a little different, right? Keeping that safety line open. So who are you in the minds of your viewers? Case in point, you know, when cancer came out, years ago, and I started doing all these interviews about having cancer, you know, I would also start to bring in some of like my childhood trauma. And I would also start to bring in some of my other accidents. Like I got hit in the face with a golf ball and lost like 5 of my teeth the day before VidCon, by the way. So I missed VidCon. It's like this whole thing. When I would do interviews, I would talk about all of these things instead of zeroing in on the cancer. You can't share all the stories all the time or all at once, right? So I want you to think about what is the narrative in the mind and keep it on the narrative. Oh, but I want to talk about my divorce. Okay, but only as it relates to your disability. You get it? My thing's on anxiety, and I want to talk also about drug use. Okay, but only in that it reinforces the anxiety. Right? Because otherwise what you're doing is you're the anxious drug user. That's not the brand you're trying to build. Okay. So I want you to be very careful with that. And the narrative is point number one. Point number two is the cadence. Point number two is the cadence. How often are you telling the story? Think about the last time you heard a podcast and there was like 17 ads before the dang thing started. Right at the end of that first ad, how many times did they say the website? Throw your fingers up. How many times did you hear them say it? Right? 3 maybe. ABC.com. That's ABC.com. Just visit ABC.com. Right? 10 times, John Fulham, my man, good to see you, saying it. Yeah, I mean, you got to think about your cadence with your live streams. And here's what I mean by that. Are you going to talk about your authentic thing every day? Maybe that's your thing, but maybe you're also a business coach and you want to talk about anxiety as your Goliath that you conquered. Because if that's the case, then you want to kind of have this cadence of like business topic, then get authentic with something. Business topic, get authentic with something, right? Here's the problem. If you live stream every day about your anxiety problems, then you are over branding yourself as the anxiety guy. So I want you to think about your cadence. And this is really important for me. I probably overstress about it, but because my story is so tragic, you know, dude gets hit in the face with a golf ball, loses 6 teeth. The next year he gets cancer. 4 years after that, he gets cancer again, you know. It's just like tragic. It's really easy for me to get a lot of likes, comments, ohs and ums and sympathies by posting about my cancer all the time. But I don't do that. I don't want to do that. Instead, what I do is I have a cadence where I'm going to post about cancer and then I'm going to post about something uplifting and victorious. And I'm probably not going to do it back to back. I'm probably going to post a cancer post. And it's not like I'm thinking, how can I get everyone to, like me? It's more like I want to update my folks on how I'm doing. Right. And so I'm going to do a cancer post, but then maybe 3 days, 4 days later, I want to give it time to breathe. I'm going to post something that brings people up and reminds them who I am. Right. Because I want people to think of Owen as cancer champion. And that's what my posts are. Right. One post might aim towards cancer. The other one makes me look like a champion. And I just try to keep that cadence going. And that's what I want you to do as well. Is think about your cadence. Are you overdoing it? Okay. That's really important. And then finally, the nevers. Okay. What are the nevers? You're never going to talk about this. You're never going to talk about that. So some quick examples. We did a show that was, let's see, what was this show? It was a Christian podcast. This was like 4 years ago. Me and a couple pastors. We started a show. We were hoping it would take off. It did okay. But it didn't do good enough to continue. And that's okay. That's part of the game. How many of you guys have ever like started a show and then it's like, nah, that show, it didn't work. Right. That's who we are. Yeah, I love it, guys. We're the same. Like I'm a creator. I'm a show creator. So we created this show, and look, anytime you start talking about like faith and truth and beliefs, like it doesn't matter how respectful you are, you're going to piss someone off. And I had somebody death threat us. They said, I hate this show. It was clearly the person was mentally unbalanced. But because we had mentioned where the church was, this person had said, I'm going to come to this town and kill your family. Did I believe him? Not for 1 second. Like this was obviously someone who was a little like unbalanced, but it brought up a lot of red flags. It's like, how transparent should we be? So things that we never do. You never reveal location. Right? And it is terrifying. Right? We try to keep, you have to keep your license plate out of things. You have to keep the address plaque. For some of you, keep your kids hidden. For me, my kids have 250,000 subscribers on TikTok. So my kids are in the public eye, and we're teaching them how to be in the public eye. Okay. For some of you, it might be, no way, I never show my kids. Okay. And I'm going to land the plane right here. I'm going to land the plane on your nevers. Never seriously, for me, I never post where I am that day. So like if you see me posting stuff that we're at the ski lodge, I was probably at the ski lodge a week ago. Right? If you see me posting that I was doing X today, I probably took that picture some time ago so that nobody could ever go, I'm going to go where Owen Video is right now and get an autograph or whatever the case might be. Right? So I try to put some space in between where I am and what I talk about. Okay. So in order to create your boundary line, you need to have a narrative, you need to have the cadence, and you need to have the nevers, right? Have those things up in front of you and start getting more authentic, being real, and changing the lives of the people you're talking to, not just their listening habits. I'm Owen Video, and I hope I get to stick around for more questions. I'm not sure if we're out of time, but
Owen, you killed it. Can we show him some gold and some hype? I saw so many big takeaways in the chat room. They loved it. So much gold. Thank you so much, Owen, for keep starting this whole thing off with the one most important thing. Owen, I owe you the world. Thank you so much for coming.
You owe me nothing. We are great friends, and every single person in this group has my support. Guys, follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Let me know about your shows. I'd love to jump in and support you any way I can. And Lori, I'm thrilled to be here.
Love you, Owen. Thank you guys so much. And you guys, we have the links to Owen in the workbook, as well as coming to you in the chat room. Remember, on the dashboard, you can hit those reactions to show love as well. So remember what I said about the adaptation mindset, and he spoke to this as well. You don't have to be going through cancer to learn from Owen's journey. He shared so much valuable information. What can you take and get vulnerable with your audience. Now we're going to keep this theme going about being human, right? Before we get into some more technique-based topics. And let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever struggled with perfectionism? I want to see a show of physical hand right now. Oh, wow, yeah. Have you ever procrastinated because something's not, just so right? Yeah, me too. Us all. I don't think there's a single person who didn't raise their hand. As you start to implement what you learned here, you're going to feel the pressure to get it right. And you're going to compare yourself to others who you think are doing it better. And our next speaker is actually going to inspire you to let that go. I fell in love with Melanie Diane Howe the first time I met her when we were both helping Amy Porterfield on a project. And her energy was just through the roof, contagious. And you would never guess she came from the corporate world working on multi-million-dollar accounts. I was shocked when I learned that. But she left all of that because she decided she was more passionate about helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and creators like yourself showcase your special gift. Let's show Mel some hype. Mel, take it away.
Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, look at all those beautiful faces. Hype, 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 hype.